They told you the Caribbean was dangerous. They told you it was broken. And they told you people only leave. They never come back. And somewhere deep down, you started to believe them. But here's the thing nobody ever told you. The loudest lies are always hiding the deepest truths. You stopped speaking your language or your dialect at school. You laughed at your granny's home remedies. You felt embarrassed by the zinc roof and the pit toilets. You didn't realize it then, but they made you feel small on purpose. Because if they could make you ashamed of where you came from, then they could control where you think you're going. They don't show the real Caribbean. They only show the postcard version. Beaches, resorts, cruise ships, rum punch. But they never show the teacher who buys extra notebooks for kids out of her own salary. They never show the man who raises 5 children on a fisherman's income. They never show the mother who turns 1 breadfruit into 3 meals. You don't see that on brochures because that would make us look powerful. And powerful isn't the story they want you to believe. You've been lied to. You were told the Caribbean is poor. But wealth isn't just money. Wealth is peace. Wealth is culture. Wealth is knowing your neighbor by name. Wealth is walking down the street hearing music, not sirens. How can a place be poor when it's the very soil who raise the strongest and most talented people in the world? They told you you had to leave to make it, that abroad was better. That staying in the Caribbean meant you settled for less. So, we packed our bags. We sent money back home, and when we returned, we acted like we didn't miss the mango tree outside the gate. But we did, because deep down, we knew life abroad wasn't what they promised either. You ever visit family in New York and see how hard they were, only to come home to cold pizza and cold apartment? They show off new shoes, but they are deep in debt. And yet the Caribbean was labeled hard life, where you can plant food and sit on the veranda and laugh till your belly hurt and sleep without checking if the door is locked twice. Funny how they never tell that part. Now let's talk about the one thing they always bring up. Crime. Yes, the Caribbean has crime, but so does America. So does Canada. So does the UK. They hide theirs. We report ours. We send it abroad. All the vloggers on YouTube, all the this, all of that, everybody knows. But you ever look at the stats though? The US have over 400 mass shootings per year. Jamaica doesn't even have half that many schools with working funds. So if danger is the measure of worth, why aren't they called dangerous? I'm not saying the Caribbean is perfect. I'm just saying it's not worse. Just more honest. Yeah, I made a whole video on this topic, so check it out here. Now they say the Caribbean was only good for vacation, but we raise scientists, we raise world-class athletes, we raise scholars, artists, engineers, and business leaders, all without fancy fundings, all without million-dollar facilities. We turn zinc and dust into dreams, and they still dare to look down on us. If you like the content so far, hit the like button. I'm aiming to get 1,000 likes on this video to get the content to be pushed by YouTube. You can do it. We can do it. Let's do it. They never showed the village that raised you. They never showed the lady who watched your siblings while your mother went to work. The old man who taught you how to fix a pipe. The taxi driver who said, "Pay me next week," and meant it. That's what they don't show, because community doesn't sell. Struggle sells. Fear sells. So they branded us with it. And we believed everything. Yes, we have problems. Yes, we need better roads. Yes, corruption is real. Yes, we have puppet leaders. Yes, some people are barely making it. But you know what? But they're still smiling, still hustling, still helping, still living. In the Caribbean, we don't wait for perfect to find peace. We laugh through the rainstorms. We dance with empty pockets. We forget fast and love hard. And somehow, they made that look like failure. They told you you come from nothing, but you come from strength. You come from prayer. You come from stories told by moonlight, from hands that turn dirt into dinner. They called us third world, but we were first in joy, first in faith, first in family. They just couldn't measure that. So they ignored it and tarnished it. So when you look around and feel like you need to escape, just remember, the only reason they lied to you was because they were afraid of what you could become if you know the truth. And now, It's time you know. But before I go on, drop your island's flag in the comments if you're proud of your roots. Because they say the Caribbean was behind. They say we weren't developed enough, that we needed saving. But have you ever looked at who is saying that? People living in cities where they don't know their neighbor's name, where the rent is high, the food is fake, and the freedom feels rented. Yet, somehow, we are the ones they pity. They say crime is out of control in the Caribbean, but they won't tell you that in the US, Canada, and elsewhere, they are losing people far worse to something quieter. The opioid crisis. You're not even allowed to say the full word on YouTube without risking your channel. But it's destroying entire towns. People are dying with full fridges and no joy. Mothers are burying children. Kids are losing parents. You don't see that on the news clips about the safe countries. But it's there. Behind closed doors, behind clean streets, behind fake polite smiles. You were taught that more buildings meant more progress, that more money meant more success. But here's what they don't teach. Peace is a form of wealth. So is laughing, so is walking barefoot and feeling safe. And the Caribbean, believe it or not, we still have that, even now. You ever sit outside on a Caribbean night, feeling the evening breeze, crickets singing, somebody down the road still frying fish at 10 p.m. and for a second you forget the stress, you forget the bills, you forget how hard life gets because you feel full. Not your belly, your soul. That's not something you can bottle. That's not something they can ship or sell. That is ours. They copy our music, our food, our slang, our fashion, but never give credit. They never say this came from the islands. They never said this was born out of struggle and turned into beauty. But we know. And now, we're saying it louder. The world made us ashamed of our accents, only to turn around and hire it for commercials when it seemed trendy. They laughed at how we cook, then turn around and try to put jerk flavor on a salad. They told us our schools weren't good enough, but now Caribbean people even run hospitals, banks, and companies around the world. So again, think about it. Who really needed saving? Yes, we have potholes. Lots of potholes. Yes, sometimes the light goes. Yes, rain floods some of the streets faster than government can answer the phone. But in the middle of all that, a neighbor still brings you soup when you're sick. Somebody still says good morning just because. A child still laughs with a whole belly even if dinner wasn't plenty. That's the part they'll never show you because it would ruin the story they built about us. What's one lie they told you about the Caribbean that you now know wasn't true? Let me know. Because you believe the Caribbean wasn't enough. But here's what they never expected. That we would make it. That we would go far. That you would return home. Or carry home with you and start to rebuild. We're not a people who stay broken. We use bush tea for everything. Wash and wear. We pray, then work, then pray again. We fall and we rise. We dance in the middle of both. They lied about the Caribbean. Because if the world really showed how rich we really are, in spirit, in community, in resilience, they would stop trying to save us and start trying to be like us. But now you know. So next time someone says, why would you even live in the Caribbean? Tell them, because I come from a place where we sing in the dark. A place that feeds people even when the fridge is low. That mourns hard and celebrate harder. That walks through the fire and still smell like coconut oil after. Tell them we were lied about, but we never lost the truth. Never. Because in the end, it's not just a destination. It's the journey.